A long time ago, I was a high school English teacher, and every one of my students knew they had to spend a few moments planning an essay before they put pen to paper and started to write. But they always thought, yeah, I've got this, and just started. And sadly, their essays often showed the difference. And drawing is just the same, just a few moments asking the right questions before we start to draw, before we put the first line on the paper, can make such an enormous difference to the outcome, and not just how the drawing looks, but the experience that we have as we draw. I'm always being asked, how do I manage to draw the drawings that I draw? It's because I think the way I do. So I want to make it really simple and share the 3 ways I think before I put the pen on paper, the 3 things I consider. And it might just be a minute, 30 seconds, 10 seconds for each of them, but there's a conscious process of starting my drawing in my head so that I know where I'm going to. Because if we know where we're trying to go before we start, we have a much greater chance of getting there. And it doesn't mean we can't be spontaneous, but even those things we'll be able to do more successfully if we consider these 3 things before we start. So I want to share with an actual reference, and then we'll draw it, and then we'll consider at the end how these have actually helped our drawing. So, we need a reference. Well, I'm all set up. It's time to stop procrastinating and to get started. So I've got the 3 pens that I plan to use, the 0.5, 0.3, and the 0.2. So I'm going to start by blocking out this section with the 0.5. And like magic, drawing appears, and sorry, that's because I've used my old trick of forgetting to turn on the camera after I've paused it to say something. I'll switch to my 0.3 now before I forget, and I won't touch the camera because it's still going. Well, I've remembered to keep everything turned on and off at the right times. So what do you think of the switch into a lighter pen for just helping this to sit further up away from this closest part? So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, yeah, this doesn't line up quite as well here with down here. So can I make any adjustment? I think for the risk of making it a bit heavy-handed, that actually works better because I find those extra lines less distracting than the sense of these don't go up in a straight line when I know they should. It's still not perfect, but I think it's a lot better than it was. And what I'm hoping is that when I do the tone, I can further make a bit of correction. And if I pull this column out slightly more here, that will further correct things a bit. Yeah, I feel that works a little bit better. So we'll keep going. So I'll finish this with the 0.3, and then I will finish this bit down the base, and then I'll just do a bit of this with a 0.2. This is the line work done. I had some challenges. Parts of it I'm not super happy with, but overall, the advantage of a complex design is that it does hide things that aren't quite right. I think I have managed to disguise or lessen the effect of some of the lines not quite angled correctly. And of course, I can use the tone to just subtly increase a slight shift in emphasis even from my line work. We read tone against other tones, so the tone we start with is fairly important. I'm going to use N3, which is a reasonably dark tone, to do the shade in this lower section. Then I'll probably use an N2 to do the shade in the upper section. And then at least in parts of the shadow, I'll use N4. And I'll use possibly some N5s just for some more local color than actual shade or shadow. Well, more magic. I've managed to do it again this afternoon with not turning the camera back on. But what we're trying to do is to create a sense of three-dimensionality and of time and atmosphere. But I'm just looking at this now, and I think some of the lines that are now emphasized aren't quite as good as they could be. Since I drew this same scene yesterday in exactly 20 minutes for my video on gestural drawing, I thought it'd be fun just to compare the two of them. In this one, of course, I was deliberately trying to remove that lens distortion that I told you about. The main thing I was unhappy about here is that I didn't get this perspective angle correct. I made it too shallow. So I'm a lot happier with how it turned out. But whichever you prefer, whatever style you're drawing in, it's always worth taking a moment before we start to observe, to strategize, to work out exactly how we'll apply our marks so that we create a cohesion with our line work across the overall drawing for whatever effect we're trying to achieve, whether it's brisk and gestural or whether it's a more considered representation of our subject. Apologies again for all the times I forgot to put the camera back on, but I hope you found this interesting. And I hope that next time when you go to draw, you will invest just those few minutes and resist the urge to start drawing straight away. I'm Travers. I'll see you next time. Bye.